Hello and welcome. This is Vapor Review Blog. I'm King, and today I'm going to be answering a question I got through email. Today's question comes from Chris from Australia, and he writes, Hey man, thanks for the awesome blog. You're welcome, Chris. I feel like I have read so much reviews, comments, journals, and other blogs that I think I have too much information. Yes. As vaping is still very new in Australia, there aren't people I can ask that have used various devices that aren't in select shops with vested interests. So I want to ask for your opinion. Ideally, wanting to transfer from spliffs to vaping purely due to health concerns about smoking. Therefore, I'd prefer convection heating. I also want to save money, so I'm hoping vaping will cut down on my volume. I want something for everyday use, and having the cleanest flavor is the priority. I've pretty much narrowed it down to the Ascent, thinking that it was pure convection, or the Firefly. So this is the Ascent. This is the Firefly. Many sites are saying the Ascent is a combo. Maybe it's even more conduction. So then it came down to the Plenty or the Firefly. But is the Plenty a convection vaporizer? Or does it really matter due to the build and the design? I'm also concerned about the metal taste, hence why the Ascent was looking good at the beginning. Any advice would be much appreciated. I'm thinking of waiting for the Firefly 2 to come out. Do you think that the Plenty is still better than the Firefly 2? Your opinion would be greatly appreciated. Remember that the taste and the quality of the vape is what I'm concerned about most due to transitioning from smoking, but within this price range in mind. Thanks for any help you can give. All right, Chris. First and foremost, I went ahead and I looked up the prices of these vapes to get an idea of what price range you had in mind. So working only in US dollars, since that's what I'm used to, you have to do all the conversions on your own. The Plenty is $300, the Ascent is $200, and the Firefly is between them at, I believe, $270. You also mentioned the Firefly 2, which there isn't an announced price yet as far as I know, but I've heard it's going to be around $330. So I'm going to assume that your price range goes up to $330 US. And if not, just keep that in mind when I'm making suggestions. You considered the Ascent versus the Firefly, both great vapes. They're both portable vaporizers. So when you threw the Plenty into the mix, I started to get a little bit of a better picture of what you were looking for. One of the first things to consider, Chris, is do you want a portable vaporizer or a plug-in vaporizer, one that plugs into an outlet? It has a cord like the Plenty here. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're limited in where you can use the plug-in vaporizers. You do have to be near an outlet. And so even if you're only going to be using it around the house, you still need an outlet for the plug-in, whereas the portables can be taken from room to room while you're using them. Not to say that portables are better. You mentioned the Ascent and whether it's convection, conduction, or both. Because the Ascent has an oven that you put the herbs in, it's about yay deep, and the heat comes from the walls of the oven. I would say that is a hybrid vaporizer and not a pure convection vaporizer, because the oven walls are conducting heat to the herbs themselves rather than hot air moving through the herbs. The Firefly, on the other hand, is an all convection vaporizer. The heat is generated below the herbs, and then your draw pulls the heat upwards, the hot air through the herbs, and that's what ends up cooking the herbs and giving you the smoother taste. So if it's between the Firefly and the Ascent, my vote goes to the Firefly, only because it matches your needs better. And any vaporizer, moving from smoking, any vaporizer is going to be an improvement. But if you're also looking to get that taste, then you know you want the convection, and the Firefly does deliver on that. You also mentioned the Firefly 2. Now, the Firefly 2 is not out yet. I have gotten a chance to use it, and it is an improvement on the first Firefly. So if you're willing to pay a little bit more and wait, I don't know if it's going to be out until April of 2016 of this year. So if you're willing to pay a little bit more and wait, I do recommend waiting until the Firefly 2 is out instead of just jumping on the Firefly right away, because you're going to get it's going to be a little easier. There's not as much of a learning curve. There's not going to be as much work on your part on every hit to get a good hit. You don't have to slow down your breathing or your draw to get the best kind of hit. With the Firefly 2, it keeps up a little bit better with a faster draw and still gives you those convection hits. Now, lastly, I don't want to discount the Plenty. The Plenty is a great vaporizer. It's one I really like to use, but you did mention saving herb by switching to vaporizer. And of the 3 vaporizers that I have here, the Plenty is probably the least conserving. It will conserve the least economical. And the reason is the bowl on the Plenty is like the size of these vapes. I mean, look at the bowl on the Plenty. It's like $50. And you can probably load a couple of grams in there if you really wanted to. Now, you don't have to fill it all the way. You can fill it part way and use a little spacer. But, you know, you're not going to get the best results using just a tiny little bit in the Plenty. You will never get the best results. You will get the best results when you really kind of you fill the bottom of that chamber all with herb, and then if you put that little spacer pad, they call it the liquid pad, because you can put a little bit of oil on there as well, then you get the best economy and the best herb economy, as well as the best performance from your Plenty. So in regards to that, I would say the Plenty is convection. Sorry, yes, it is convection. The Plenty is convection. The Plenty can be economical if you're willing to put down a lot of herbs, but if you're just using it by yourself, that is not economical. You will not get the best results. And it is also a plug-in vaporizer, so keep that in mind. It does have a cord. I do have one more suggestion that I think will fit your requirements, and that's also by Storz & Bickel, the company that makes the Plenty, and that is the Crafty. So the Crafty, it also has a slightly larger version called the Mighty, or they also have a slightly larger version called the Mighty. The Crafty will give you very, very similar results to the Plenty in terms of your vapor quality, the taste. It's a convection vaporizer, or 90% convection. I mean, you know, getting 100% convection is tough, if not impossible, with these portable designs. But it is mostly convection. The taste is absolutely there. The herb economy is better than the Plenty because it has a smaller chamber. I don't think I cleaned this out. It has a smaller chamber, so I would say this is more like the diameter of a penny compared to $50. The battery life on the Crafty, I would say about 4 sessions. So you'd probably get a little bit more out of the Ascent and the Firefly, but you wouldn't get the same kind of results. And the reason for that is it takes more battery power to run a convection vaporizer than a conduction vaporizer, because you have to keep the air the right temperature as it's moving through the herbs rather than just heat the herb chamber. This is $340 US, I believe, $339. So it is a little bit outside of that price range that you mentioned, and that might be a reason not to consider it. But I highly recommend looking into it. And if you're willing to spend up to $400 US, $399, the Mighty, which is the larger version of the Crafty, also highly recommended because it has double the battery life, it heats up a little bit faster, and there's a screen that's built onto the vape itself to control its temperature, as opposed to the Crafty, which requires a cell phone app, iOS or Android. And so this is my ultimate recommendation, would be the Crafty to say the closest to your price range, the Mighty if that's not, if you can spend the 400 US. If you're gonna consider the Firefly seriously, I would wait for the Firefly 2. The Ascent, as you said, is a hybrid conduction-convection vaporizer, so it probably doesn't fit into the taste category that you were looking for, but it does have that all-glass air path. You had mentioned that the taste of the air path and not having a metallic taste is important. The Ascent does match that, and it's a good vape. I mean, it's not a bad vape at all. It's just not convection, which is important. And lastly, the Plenty, no metallic taste from this metal coil, which is the cooling coil. The vapor quality, the taste is top notch, highly recommended. But once again, remember, this is a plug-in, and you may not get the best economy, the herb economy, if you're using it by yourself. Thank you, Chris, very much for your question. This is a complicated question, and there's a lot of things to consider. So hopefully you can make the choice that's the right vape for you. Let me know how that turns out. And thank you, everybody. Feel free to write in with your questions. There's a contact form on, leave the link in the description below, and I will happily demonstrate and show off and answer any other questions. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.